In this video, we're going to be working on this Dodge Ram 1500 SST edition, and we have the 3rd gen HEMI in this truck. So if you guys have been following along with the build, we picked up this 1997 Dodge Ram 1500 SST. It was an abandoned truck. It looked like somebody used it for racing in the past, but we ended up yanking all that old stuff out. The old original 5.9 Magnum engine was blown up. We went through it and we decided to put a 5.7 liter HEMI in here. So we've got this in here. If you guys have been following along, we got the engine mounts sorted. We ended up painting the chassis, painting the engine bay, all that stuff. Go check out those episodes. Now we have the Terminator X Max and we have a full wiring system here for this truck. So in this episode, we're gonna focus on getting the electronics situated. So we're gonna get all this stuff run. I still have to put the original fuse box back in this so that we have lights, turn signals, horn, windows, all that good stuff. But in addition to that, we're gonna be wiring all this stuff up. The Terminator X Max is awesome, you guys. So you can use this on an LS, a Gen 3 HEMI, a Ford engine, all sorts of different types of applications. And then what you do is you order your engine harness based on whatever you're installing it on. So in this case, we have the Gen 3 HEMI harness. Also over here on the bench, I have the other 2 harnesses that we are going to need. So I've got everything laid out. This is gonna be our fuel injector harness. So this clips into our fuel injectors on the Gen 3 HEMI. And then this is our coil pack harness. So this plugs into our coil packs for our 3rd gen HEMI. So we've got everything here. Now it's just a matter of getting everything in there. So I've got the doors open and we're gonna start running some of the wiring, getting it situated. So let's get started. Okay, so I have everything laid out pretty much, you guys. So this is the original harness. I'm just kind of going through it. And the nice thing about these older harnesses is this harness pretty much just runs all the lights, all the functions and all that stuff. It's got the relays in it. And we'll have to do a little bit of integration as far as, you know, starter relays and fuel pump relays, but most of that stuff is going to come from the Holley. So you'll probably see I have the intake manifold, so I'm just kind of seeing how that's all going to work out. And what I'm doing right now is just trying to map out where I want to bring things in. So here is where our brake booster goes through. So that's occupied. This one is where that main harness, you can see that circle right there. That goes through there for all of our main electrical for the wires, as far as, you know, lights and all those functions. But this one is actually vacant. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is pass it through here. So I might enlarge the inner portion of the circle. It kind of has this square up here. It's probably where like a clutch pedal would go if you had a 3rd pedal on this thing. All right, so it's a few days later. We finished the fuel system, which you guys probably saw that in the last video. And I'm back onto the wiring. So I've got the stock harness down here and I'm gonna clean it all up because it's a little bit brown looking, a little bit weathered looking. There's a couple wires I'm gonna fix. For example, like just minor ones. This one here goes to, I don't even remember where it is, but it's, oh, right here. The overhead, like the hood light. So that needs to be put in place. There is some wiring for our fuel pump stuff. This is just whatever hack job wiring from before, and there's like a fuse wrapped up in tape. I'm gonna leave this here because this is essentially, we're gonna have to redo this, but we'll worry about that once we get the Holley wiring coming to here. And then, yeah, just cleaning things up. There's a few things I'm gonna have to probably go to the junkyard and get a new terminal or wire that goes from here to our starter because somebody snipped it, and just some odds and ends and, you know, stuff like that. So anyways, let me clean this up. You guys see the way it looks now, a little bit brown. I'm gonna go ahead, fix some wires. I'm gonna clean it up, put some new black tape where it needs it, and she'll look like brand new in just a minute. Okay, so we got the harness all cleaned up. There's a couple wires that I'm gonna have to pick up from the junkyard, but no big deal, just a turn signal connection. And then I took out all this old junk, used new tape, cleaned it all up, so she's looking better than ever. Right now I'm cleaning up some hardware and I'm painting a couple things. Also, I ordered a new radiator, so that is on its way. But we're over here, I'm outside at the paint booth, and I'm gonna clean up these sensors. I think these are for the airbag or SRS system. So these are like 2 crash sensors, pretty sure at least. And then here is our latch and then our hardware. So I'm gonna paint this stuff all up and clean it up a bit. And then that way we can mount our sensors in there, lay the harness, and kind of get things situated. So let's get this stuff cleaned up. What I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to take out this seat and I'm going to take out this kick panel right here, because that way I can get in here a little bit easier so I'm not just crammed in here. So I'm going to take the seat out, take this off, because we're going to be spending a bunch of time in there. There's also a rat's nest of an old school alarm system, so that has to come out. So let's take out the seat, take out this panel, and then we can start figuring out where we're going to put everything. I don't know if you guys saw that, but the power seats work. So since we don't have power to the system, it's just 2 wires that go into here, and I'll show you guys. Power seats work because I got to get to these back bolts, and I had no way of doing it other than powering up the system. Juggle everything at the same time again. Look, I've got powered. Oh, maybe I can't juggle everything at the same time. Multitasking with my fingers here. So there you go. Even the tilt works. What about this one? Yeah, the back goes up too. Maybe that's maxed out. Yeah. But cool. All right, so let's get this out of here. Okay, so seat is out, and I was not playing, boys. That was a lot of funky business. Look at that. It is a pico de gallo. No, it's a gecko. Gecko skeleton in here. But look at all this rat's nest of wiring. So somebody has been in here. You can see this little LED over here for all the fun stuff. So I'm gonna take out all this aftermarket alarm system, and in the process I'm gonna have to reconnect these original wires. So I'm just gonna spend some time, you guys, reconnecting the original wires. So like this one, like pretty much the way the alarm systems work, if you guys do or don't know, they kind of just loop in. Like this one's not so bad, these are tapped. This one loops in between, so it's probably like your ignition wire, so that you know you can't start the vehicle unless this thing closes the circuit. So I'm gonna get rid of a lot of this junk. Easy ones are like these wire taps. We can just pop off of here, so we don't have to worry about that. If it looks like spaghetti, it is spaghetti, but I just want to get all this junk out of here so that I don't have to contend with all that. I'm thinking what I'm probably gonna do is mount the Terminator X right in around here, and that way the LEDs can face down here and our plugs will be here. So if we ever need to get to it, it's, you know, maybe 5 screws to access it, and from the bottom we can see all of our warning lights and stuff, and if your feet start lighting up, that means we got an issue. And I think I'm gonna do it that way. So looks like a nice perfect space for it right here. The hole for the firewall is right there, so I think it's gonna work out beautifully, guys. So let me mess with the wiring for a while, get rid of all this junky alarm system, and then we'll continue. Okay, so we're making quick work of removing this old junky alarm system, and if you guys remember, if you guys have been following along, there was a wire that was coming out that went to the alarm system. Looks like probably was some sort of cut for the fuel pump. So that is obviously coming out, and we're making more progress. All right, so check out all that junk that we've removed. So alarm system looks to be pretty much out. Next up, it's got this cheesy shift light here. So the cable goes here, and then it's got this beautiful wiring job stuck right underneath the fuse. So we'll take that out, and I guess we might as well take out the rest of their wiring jobs that are just wrapped around fuses. It's kind of, when you see stuff like this, you guys, I know everybody's probably done it once in their life. I'm guilty as well, but when you see a ton of stuff like this, it just kind of can only expect that something else is going to go wrong. And I mean, this truck did blow up, so okay, we're gonna get this out of here. I'm gonna take off this cheesy shift light, or try to see if I can get in there to get out these 2 Phillips screws. But the wiring should, other than a ground wire somewhere, this thing should be detached. If you want this, hit me up. Some sort of, oh, it's actually an MSD shift light. Maybe it's not that cheesy, but she is a little sun faded, that's for sure. Actually, you know what's kind of funny, you guys, is I'm pretty sure the way these work is this, you can change this. And if you see there, hopefully you can see. Holy moly, we have a bright here. There, 5.8. So I'm pretty sure that means this guy was shifting this thing at 5,800 RPM. And I think this transmission has a manual valve body in it. So this guy was money shifting this thing at 5,800. So it probably explains why she grenaded. Anyways, let's continue. Okay, so we opened up that hole to the same diameter, so you can see through there. So that's all cleaned up, and then I was just checking out where I want to mount that Terminator X Max, and like I said, it is going to fit beautifully right here. So check that out, right there, or even flip it this way, and then there's the LEDs right there on the bottom. They'll be visible from down below. So right there, going to make some brackets, and we'll get her situated right here. All right, so we've got the original harness all cleaned up. I kind of just redid some of the tape and whatnot. It looks really good. So let's go ahead and we'll put the original harness back in the truck, get it all integrated back in. That way we have all the routing planned out, and at the engine bay, we'll have the wiring again for headlights, turn signals, all that stuff, and then we can move on. It's been so long since I stripped this engine bay, I did pretty much forget where everything mapped out. So this is where the fuse box goes, but it just looked way too close to the battery, but that is where it goes. Also, I cannot remember, but I might put a riv cert here because that is where the bottom of this goes. And I guess it was just nutted and bolted, but you guys know I kind of like to improve on things. So yeah, that looks to be that hole right there, but it's just a straight up hole. So I might put a riv cert on the back side of that, and then that's where the bottom of this support goes for the fuse box. Might end up taking this out again afterwards, but I kind of just want to map everything out. That way we know which lengths we want to cut things to and whatnot. I'm going to install our little crash sensors here in the front, get those in on both sides. I ended up painting the hardware, so let me get that in there. Okay, it might be dusty, but I did paint all the hardware. It's just been sitting around for weeks at this point. So here we go. Here's the ones for the little crash sensors. And then here's the sensors, so let's get them put in place. Okay, so sensors in. Now I'm gonna drill a hole through there, and we'll put our riv cert in it for the fuse box. All right, so we've got that mapped out. That's good to go. I'm gonna pop this out just because the battery tray is just chilling here. It's not even actually doing anything. So I'm gonna pop it out, and that way I can run the wires back behind it because that's where they go. And then I can get rid of all this harness that goes over to our headlights. All right, so I think there's probably a little bit more buttoning up I can do, but the general locations are all there. Wiring harness is in, and our fog light harness is just chilling down here. And then the one that goes down to the frame to go to the tail lights, fuel pump, all that good stuff is routed in place as well. So that's pretty much established. What I'm gonna do now is, before I finally get into the wiring and stuff, if I did it or didn't say, I already kind of been behind the scenes figuring this out. So I got a brand new radiator, and then I've been playing with the hoses and trying to figure out which combination of hoses, but we'll deal with all that later. You'll also notice a Holley power steering pump, new tensioner, all that stuff. Again, still messing with that stuff. Once I come up with the final configuration, I'll let you know. But what I want to do now is I've been airing out the interior because it is so musty in here just from being closed up for a million years. But I want to figure out the bracket for our Terminator X. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be putting it here. So let me come up with the bracket, and that way this is in place, and then we can start finally getting some stuff wired in. All right, so I found these L-shaped brackets, which I think are going to work perfectly. Also, a couple of the holes line up good, and then we can bend this into place. Okay, so we've got our brackets. I went ahead and put some riv certs on the back of them. Now we're gonna go ahead and mock this up on the truck and get the orientation, and then I'm gonna have to drill some holes and figure out how we're gonna mount it to the truck, but that should not be that difficult. And all of the steel in here is untreated anyways, so it's kind of the same deal as what we're going with, so it should be pretty good once I get this figured out. So rather than having to remove the carpet right now, I just removed the actual piece. It just unbolts. There's only a few screws, and then I took it off. I was trying to figure out if I was going to bolt it to this, but what I ended up doing was just welding it there, as you can see. So welded it to the end. Now all I have to do is just bend it down to the profile that I want, and we're going to have a perfect factory looking bracket in there that can hold this. So let me test it out. Let's get it in there, bend it to the right angle, and then we should be done mounting our Terminator X. Okay, so here we go, guys. I'm super happy with how this turned out. So we've got a Terminator X here. I haven't tightened it down, but you get the idea. She's gonna hang out right there. We'll be able to plug in all of our plugs here, and then this panel will be able to completely go back over top like stock. And then if you ever need to access it, you can go from there. Also, the LEDs will be visible from the bottom, so if you see something shining on your feet, we'll know that we need to look into trouble codes and all that stuff. Next up, what I'm going to work on is mounting our electronic pedal. So this thing has a really weird cable throttle setup. So it's got this big aluminum bracket that it runs off of. But I went ahead and I purchased this bracket, and this is for, I think it was a D100. I'll link it down below if you guys are interested. But this is Holley's bracket for electronic pedal for a different model, but not for the second gen at this point in time of making this video. But it's gonna work pretty decent, so I'm gonna mock this up. Originally what I was thinking of doing was maybe just cutting this and welding it, but I was just kind of looking at it quickly before I started filming. It might actually fit to where I can just drill 3 holes through the firewall and bolt it on. So if that's the case, I'm just gonna drill 3 holes and plop it on there. So let me mess with it, mock it up, and see where the pedal lands. Well, things have escalated quickly, you guys. I ended up taking out the steering column so I could get the pedal box out, because I'm gonna trim off all the excess nonsense that we're not using off there. So I've got it over here, and I'm about to start cutting it up, and because the original mount for the gas pedal, this big long piece, is getting in my way. I was originally gonna maybe drill through the side of it and try to mount it off that, but honestly, if I just cut it off and get rid of all this and then actually mount it to the firewall, it's gonna be a lot more sturdy. Same time, it gives me a chance to get rid of this. I had opened it up like you guys saw earlier, but it'll give me a chance to just cut this off so that we don't have the wires passing through here. So I'm gonna cut this off, cut that off, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so we chopped off this piece, chopped off the other piece, smoothed everything on both sides. So we've got rid of all that. Now I can hopefully make a bracket and have enough room. Okay, I think I got the plan. So sometimes this stuff takes a lot longer than I would like it to, but it's one of those things where you kind of just have to stare at stuff for a while until you figure it out. So we got that box all modified there, so it gives me room to actually make a bracket. And what I'm thinking is I'm gonna have this, hopefully you guys can see, I know the brake pedal's getting in the way, but have this sit out 2 inches off the firewall. And I've got this 2-inch wide steel here. So what I'm gonna do is I got the flat bar here. It is an 1/8 thick, which is the same material as here. So I'm gonna cut this here. So there's a weld in the back, I'm gonna cut it on both sides, same place. And then I'm gonna bump out this 2 inches. And that should give us what we need right there. So let me go ahead, start cutting, see what we end up with.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was almost bringing me back to science class in high school. So This is actually magnesium. I thought it was cast aluminum, but it is magnesium because the sparks from the steel was actually igniting this stuff and it was lighting up. So I'm gonna have to clean up the work area and then before I start grinding again. That's wild. Okay, so I tack welded her in place. This is a prototype and it actually works really well, you guys. So that's gonna go right in there and that will give us our good pedal alignment. Again, the brake pedal is not connected to the booster or the master, so it's kind of just sunken right now. But that is where the original pedal was right over there by that circle on the floor there. So this one's falling into place nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and weld the rest of it. I gotta cut one more piece and like I said, extended it even higher, and then we can drill a couple holes through the firewall to hold it, and then we'll have a pedal finally. Okay, so there's our extended bracket welded. I'm gonna go ahead, test fit again, and then I'll go ahead and paint it. Okay boys, so I got into one of my creative madness modes and got it done. So this was my goal for today. As you can maybe see, it is dark and nighttime outside, even though it looks like absolute daylight in here. But I wanted to accomplish this for today because it took quite a bit of planning to make sure that the gas pedal was mapped out, both in a place that fits and a place that's going to be comfortable. So I've done it a few times now. I had to do it for this and now this, so I've gotten familiar with having to lay out pedals and stuff like that. But I ended up drilling a hole here and there. I'm gonna see once I put the brake booster in here if it covers that. If it is, then I'm gonna put a rivsert this way if it's hidden by the brake booster once it's in here. If not, I'm just gonna nut and bolt it. You're never gonna have to really get in there to take off the bracket. If you need to access or service the pedal itself, you can remove it off the bracket. So the bracket really doesn't have to come off for anything. It's not going to be in any way, but there you see it there. And then inside, super happy with it. I had to keep flipping the carpet back and forth to make sure that it was going to clear not just the paint, like the floors, but you had to make sure that it would clear. There's an insulation here, and then there's sound deadening on the back of the carpet, and then there's the carpet itself. So really took quite a bit of time, but here's the final result. So we cut out all the old junk. We've got our new little pedal box here, and she is solid, boys. So there it is there. It's funny because this pedal here, we got this one so perfect that the factory pedal, I don't know if it shows up on camera, but the factory pedal is actually bent, like just from the factory. It's not like perfect, and it's almost making this one look goofy because this one's not exactly 100% perfect from the factory, and I think it just is the way it is, just a little bit crooked. But this is in the factory position. If we put it all the way to the floor, she's got clearance below, so she can get fully matted, and we're good to go. So I'm gonna pop this off here, and then I'm gonna paint it up, and then that way when I start working on this thing in the morning, the paint will be dry and I don't have to mess with this anymore, and I can put it in place and finalize this. So let me paint this black, and I'll see you guys in the morning. All right, it's the next day, and here is our bracket. She's all painted up, so I can go ahead, install this, and don't have to worry about it anymore. So we can put that back in. So throw that in, and then the other thing I want to mess with too is I still have the old power steering pump over here, and I have the lines. So new power steering pump is here. It's gonna work. This is the Holley unit, so I'll link this down below for you guys. You guys can get one of these if you want. And it operates on the lower pressure, which the older systems do. So a lot of the newer HEMI pumps that you'll find on a 3rd gen HEMI will run a lot higher pressure, which can blow out the seals on your rack or your gearbox. So I'm gonna see if I can swing these lines. That way I don't have to custom make any lines. Definitely the low pressure side, that one will fit. It'll literally just slide onto here. And then the high pressure one with this bend, we'll see if this is any sort of favorable bend that comes off the high pressure side. So let's swing them over, try not to make a mess or a disaster, and see what happens. Okay, so we used the drip tray that Clay Milliken gave us in Vegas. Somehow it made it all the way back here. But took off the old power steering pump, and then, as I mentioned, our return line, that fits no problem. And actually, our high pressure line, it might not be the prettiest, but it will fit, it will work. So once you route it through there, tighten it down. I have to take the pump back off to get to the nut from the back side, but it will tighten down. Probably gonna upgrade this to a braided line from Earl's so that it's not doing such a big snake coil through here. And there's actually a fitting right here from Holley that'll go there. This will drop down there nicely, and then I just need to get a couple fittings and the hose to go right to there. So she'll be bang on, but that will work. But at the same time too, our stock one will work, just a little bit more ugly. What I'm gonna do right now quickly, you'll notice over here I was also playing with heater hose, so that's all gonna work. So I've got my 5/8 heater hose, boom, boom. I just need to get one more of these from the parts store. So that'll be that. Belt wise, I'm hoping that this belt will work with this Holley pulley for the power steering. So I do need to get either that, or I have to go get a shorter belt. It would work without AC, but eventually I'm gonna try to get some AC in here, because Florida heat is no joke, boys. But what I'm gonna try to do, I'm trying to find some hardware for this so I can actually put the AC compressor in here to see if the belt will go around. That's another little task, but kind of jumping around since there's just so many things to do. I do actually want to kind of just get everything back situated in here that we were working on yesterday. So I also put some primer on some of those spots that we had welded from the other side. So primered those up since I was in here. So I'm gonna flip the carpet back. We'll put in our pedal. I can probably put our steering column back in, and I can probably throw the brake booster back in as well. So kind of get a few things buttoned up. So I've got our brake booster here. I'm gonna go ahead and I just scuffed it up with a Scotch-Brite pad. I'm gonna dust it with some fresh black paint. That way she looks all fresh with the engine bay. Let's get that done. All right, so while that dries, let's go do some other stuff. All right, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, but there is 5 million things to be done. So I can't seem to find bolts for our AC compressor to bolt into here, so I'm gonna have to order those or go to the store and get some hardware, because it's like a really long but thin bolt, and I can't rob one from any other place. I'm still waiting for brake booster to dry. I painted the bolts for our pedal, so I need that to dry. And right now I am going to put in our windshield wiper assembly, since it's just sitting over here on the bench, and it can go in that way. It's out of the way off the bench. I was also looking at some other stuff. Cooling fans, we're gonna go electric fan. This is the electric fan originally from that, so I'm trying to see if I can maybe use that or integrate that into this. We're definitely not going mechanical fan on this thing, but this one might be a good fit, but we'll have to make some brackets for it. Other thing that's interesting is it has a transmission cooler, as you can see here, in the radiator itself, but also this truck has another transmission cooler. So it also has this one, which not sure how they had this all ran. It definitely doesn't look good though. It's completely blocked. I'm probably just gonna use a brand new one that's on the radiator rather than try to reuse this. There's another odd part that I saw. Here's the lines that go back to the transmission, but the problem is somebody chopped it right here, and this is on a crimped end, so almost have to go and get new lines to the transmission or make custom ones. And then I thought this was kind of an interesting piece. I don't know what the heck this, obviously it's factory, but I mean, it has a power steering cooler on it already, so I don't know what this little loop-de-doo line is. Really not sure. So some sort of cooler or attempt at a cooler, but again, there's a factory transmission cooler. Here's another one, and it already has a factory steering cooler on it, and I never changed any of those lines, so I don't know what that came from, because it has a little power steering cooler right here. So interesting, but let's get the windshield wipers in. All right, so I ended up putting the 2 bolts in that hold the pedal. and I was just test fitting our brake booster now that it is all cleaned up. So she fits, clears the valve cover, but I'm also noticing that since I'm gonna be putting on some spicy valve covers, it's probably gonna be the best time to do that is now. So I'm gonna go ahead, pop these off, and before I put this in there, and we're gonna put on our Holley valve covers because they look way better than these units. And it's gonna spice up this engine bay. All right, check those out, you guys. Those things are spicy. So there is the Holley Sniper valve covers we're gonna be putting on. I popped off the old one, and there it is there. But if you guys do or don't know, this is out of the Hell Ram, the original engine. So this thing only had like, I think 46,000 miles or something on it originally. So she looks super clean underneath there. So let's go ahead and get the new valve cover on, and then we can work on doing the other side. Okay, so here's what stock looks like. Bam, there's the Sniper on there. So this thing looks beefy. So let's get this one swapped out real quick, whip through it, and then we'll have both matching valve covers, and I can get back to what we were doing. Dang, it looks so good. Let's hit the lights. Sheesh. I'm liking how that looks. Okay, so you can probably tell that I kind of just slid the brake booster in there just to make sure everything clears. We're good. So let me hop back in there. I'm gonna tighten up the bolts, then I can put my steering column back in and kind of get a little glance at what this thing might start looking like. Okay guys, we are getting pretty close. Brake boosters in, masters bolted up. We've got our valve covers in. I just ordered another belt because I was playing with the belts, and I think this one is gonna be a little bit too short, so I ordered a longer belt. Gotta get one more of these hoses. All that's good to go. We got our fuel line ready to go. I'll put the intake on last week. Got to do some wiring and stuff, so we'll deal with that after. Reconnected my steering. Our pedals are in place. I'm laughing because, like I mentioned earlier, the factory brake pedal is actually crooked, and I made the gas pedal so perfect that the brake pedal, I don't know if it's picking up in the camera because I have this GoPro has a fisheye on it, but I actually want to bend the brake pedal to be more square so that everything matches. But yeah, gas pedal's in place. Works perfect. So it doesn't bottom out on our carpet. It's got like the perfect amount of clearance. So we're all good there. And we've got our bracket for our Terminator X. That's all ready to go. Pretty much just a bunch of little things. Gonna have to get all of our lines, our fluid lines. I might just loop the transmission for now, just so that we can start it at some point. Exhaust still has to be done, but I kind of just want to at least get everything buttoned up so that we can possibly turn the key. I gotta take off these headers at some point and weld V-bands on there before I actually bolt them down, so that has to be done, but I think we can probably at least get all the electrical stuff sorted out. Got some new battery terminals coming. Tomorrow I'm gonna pick up a battery for this thing because I don't have a battery, of course, and yeah, just lots of stuff on the go. So let me know what you guys think down below. A lot of progress going on here. My goal is to be able to at least crank this thing. I'm hoping the starter motor actually isn't all frozen up, otherwise I'm gonna be running out to get a starter motor as well. So lots on the go, lots on the way. Pretty excited about all that, but let me know what your favorite part of this project is. She's getting closer and closer every day and every episode, so thanks for watching. Check out the other videos if you want to see how we got to this point. Give it a thumbs up before you take off, and we'll see you guys on the next one.